I'm Christy with a Laugh or Die podcast, and I am going to go in more depth about the Sebastian Rogers case. I hate to say that someone's guilty right off the bat, but come on. Now I know I could be wrong. I could be really, really off, but I don't think I am. Let's start with Katie and Chris. Those are Sebastian's mother and stepfather. There's an interview, and I'll play some clips of it, where a podcaster is interviewing them. And if you'll notice, they're sitting kind of far apart with Sebastian's picture in between. They don't really make a lot of eye contact with each other. In fact, at one point, she's going through what has happened during the day. And she's going through there. She goes, yeah, picked up our niece. And she looks at him like, right? And he nods back. And I'm like, why would you need to ask him? He wasn't even in the city. He was 3 hours away. That's going to be very important here in a minute. 3 hours.
The video you are about to see is from early Monday morning, February 26th, around 3:10 a.m. Now, there are no street lights in the Stafford Court neighborhood, so it is at night, pitch black. What you will see here are these 2 points of light believed to be people with flashlights in the area around Sebastian Rogers' Hendersonville home. It is believed Sebastian left his home barefoot and with a flashlight sometime overnight. Since his disappearance, authorities have reviewed security video from homes in the neighborhood looking for clues.
We have had several clips that have come in.
And this one is getting the most attention, showing signs of activity around Sebastian's home the night he disappeared. You see 2 light sources, which we've circled to help you follow. For point of reference, the security camera was pointed toward the back of Sebastian's home in a common area. In the video, you see subject 1 with a light source in the lower right-hand corner. Then you see subject 2 briefly appear and move toward the first before that light source is covered or obscured by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then, subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area, and that is it.
We went and picked up our niece.
Yeah.
I got a call and asked if I could go and pick her up, and I did. And so we went and did that. We went to BJ's. Had a good time there. He ate a colossal popcorn. Came home to put groceries away because we bought snacks because, you know, he's 15 and snacks. We went to the bowling alley, and then from there we went to dinner. Came home. He took out the trash because that's his chore. He takes the can to the end of the driveway. About 9 o'clock, told him to go to bed. And he's come out of his room where he was playing, and he said, all right, good night, Mama. Good night, puppies. Love you. And went to bed. He was doing something in his room because about an hour later I heard some noise, and I was like, I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep. And about midnight I got up and I went to bed. And 6 o'clock I went to wake him up for school Monday morning, and that's when he wasn't here. I didn't see him in his room. I looked all over. I ran through the whole house. I looked out all the doors and windows, and I was like hollering his name. And I picked up the phone and I called my husband, and I said, I can't find him. And he said, what do you mean? I said, he's not in this effing house. I can't find our son. And I jumped in my car and I drove around the neighborhood, and I drove over by the school, and he's already at this point I was like hysterical, and I was crying and I was screaming. And he was like, he three-wayed law enforcement and was telling them like our son is missing and we don't know what's going on. And he was like, go back to the house, they're on their way. And I drove back to the house. And
One other question I have is recently Channel 5 in Nashville, they had security footage that showed 2 flashlights the night he disappeared. Is there anything that you think about this video, or
Sure.
what do
So
you think?
there's a lot of speculations about that video that are floating on the internet. Okay, and that is exactly what it is. It's speculations. Now, what I can give you an official statement on is TBI Newslink has released a statement from law enforcement, between local law enforcement, state law enforcement, some federal law enforcement, and they have analyzed that video so many times over that everything that everybody is trying to assume is a flashlight, I hate to say this, it's not. As much as we would love it to be one, it's not. I'm not going to go into details as far as where that video is shot from, but I can tell you, as the parents, we have seen the video firsthand from law enforcement. We know exactly where it was taken from, and nothing that is being assumed right now is actually true about that video, unfortunately. Every single parent has been vetted. I can't go into details, but I can tell you we have been vetted and we have been cleared of all possibility of wrongdoing, foul play. There's nothing to that. We've heard all kinds of stories.
I pretty much don't even go online anymore at this point.
I, on the other hand, I do go on and I do talk to these folks, and I want them to understand they have this formulated opinion on who we are, not who we truly are. They've never met us. We've never crossed paths with some of these folks. But I have told them online, if you want to know, just ask me. I'll answer your questions to the best of what I can. There are some things that I cannot give you because law enforcement has dictated that we are not to provide certain information. But I will try. I am direct, I am brash, but I am very respectful.
Do we have an estimated time of start for the search process?
Call came in at 6:33 this morning.
Great, thank you.
Heading missing juvenile, 1008 Stafford Court, 1008 Stafford Court, Hendersonville. Caller advised this morning they woke up and their 15-year-old male was not in the bed. We had a white male, 30 blonde hair, approximately 5 foot, 120 pounds. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt and black sweatpants. Juvenile does have a form of autism. This is the first time it happened. I was going to be in the home before midnight. All the doors are locked at this time.
2-4, Monroe.
47. I asked the call taker to ask if the juvenile has a phone. Great. Central to 68. I am Mrs. Fire Call.
It is.
Central to 47-180, 412. Juvenile left his son at the house. The mother is driving around looking for him in the Victoria Place subdivision, and she is driving a baby blue Infiniti.
I'm in the area. Check long haul out, just same way.
You can take me off the assist fire. I'll be en route to the missing juvenile.
Next pick track back up, going into the construction site over here, back towards the beach.
2-4, I'm behind you. It's awful muddy. Do you see any footprints, anything? You shouldn't have any shoes on.
Negative, this is all dry, hard packed. I do have some footprints over here.
Right there where you're standing?
Yeah, leading right over here to the retaining pond.
No shoes, just footprints?
My shoes, that Max went straight into the pond. Max led me straight to the retaining pond. Over behind Willow Boulevard, he dove right into the water.
Yeah, do you see any prints around it?
There was a few footprints in some of the softer dirt headed straight this way on the track that he was running.
Truck 47, what kind of shooters he wear? Size 10. Well, to any units they're going to be assisting with 1008. Please come to 1008 Stafford Court now, please.
She's looking down a lot, which, if you've seen a lot of people that have been abused, that's what they tend to look down. Do I think he's abused her? Absolutely. Do I think she's innocent in all this? Not one bit. So she looks at him for approval. She seems robotic. He does too, to an extent, but she's very robotic. If she wasn't abused, she sure does act like she's been. He said, Chris Proudfoot has said, that he and Katie both have taken a polygraph test and passed. Then if you listen to another interview, he says that he hasn't taken one because the police have cleared him, because he wasn't even in the area at the time, so he doesn't need to take a polygraph. He said the TBI, and I think the other police have said that to him. When has that ever happened? Ever. When have the cops ever said, oh, what? Oh, you were 3 hours away? Okay, you don't have to take a polygraph. That's not happening. Then he turns around and tells Nancy Grace, yeah, I'll take one. You know, you just tell me the time and place. Well, that hasn't happened. Now, if you are listening to me at all, I've posted a 2-hour interview with Nina Gomez, which is Chris Proudfoot's ex-wife, one of his ex-wives. He's been married 5 times. 5 times. That should shoot red flags everywhere. 5 times. So she's with him, and I believe her. Because like with Seth Rogers, Sebastian's father, they both show emotion, and they show it the way you would expect someone who is frantic that they've lost their child. Unlike Katie and Chris. Okay? Nina went on to say that he struck her 3-year-old. She's like, what? Don't you hit him? Da, da, da. She's like, he needs to be a man. This isn't Chris's kid. This is Nina's kid with another man. And he whops the kid. And, yeah, discipline, sure. A 3-year-old needing a spanking? Maybe a swat on the hand, maybe a little on the butt. But not a spanking. And he needs to be a man. Again, I believe Nina. Is 100% of what she said true? We don't know. I'm sure everyone has different versions of what has happened in their past that they honestly believe is true. But I believe 95% of what she's saying. He hit her daughter, again, not his daughter, her daughter from a previous relationship. I guess, you know how teens are, they get mouthy. He pops her in the mouth. She's got braces on. Busts the lip. It happens. All right, fine. But this is a pattern we're seeing of him feeling like he's got to be the authoritarian and dish out discipline for children that aren't even his. Oh, gets better. So Nina is married to Chris. She starts seeing signs of, oh man, this is not the dude I thought I married. I need to get out of this. Oh no. Then she finds out she's pregnant with Faith. So you'll hear in a lot of interviews them talk about Faith. Don't get confused. That is the baby that Chris had with Nina. She's probably about 7 now, I think. And he wanted her to have an abortion. He wanted her to abort the baby. She talked to her parents, and the parents were like, hell no, don't you have an abortion? Da 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 da. So they split up, and Chris moves to Tennessee, to here in Hendersonville, near his family. Or probably with his family, I'm assuming at this point. No, I take that back. He's married to Katie. So this happened this Christmas. Nina is getting Faith ready to go visit them for Christmas. And you've got Katie that meets Nina at the airport to hand off Faith to go visit Chris and Katie. At this time, Nina says, oh, she's filming like she always does. And I thought, oh, she meant Faith. No, she meant Katie. So Katie is the kind to film everything and like even is laughing at certain points that happen later because Chris thinks this is a good time for Nina to be served for custody. She freaks out. She's running through the airport. That woman's trying to steal my baby, which I would have probably done the same thing. Because if you're getting served there, dude wants full custody. I'm thinking he's going to take my child when I'm being nice to even let that guy have visitation. But anyway, so again, Katie's videoing it, smirking and laughing at it. That tells me volumes of what I need to know about Katie Proudfoot. Seth. We have gotten some bombshells from Seth Rogers in the last week. He goes on to be interviewed saying that Sebastian, when Sebastian was about 7 or 8, he was with Katie. Katie was living in California at the time. And lets this 13-year-old kid play with Sebastian. She's not supervising them. They're off, whatever. Come to find out, that 13-year-old allegedly abused and raped Sebastian. And Seth says the kid never got the therapy and help that he needed. She's saying, oh, he did, da, 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 da. So Seth hears about the abuse from Katie. And this isn't the first time that she's had questionable people around Sebastian. Evidently, she was in California as well, around a man who had been in prison for pedophilia. So now Chris is trying to get custody of Faith. Faith, who's about 7 or 8. Wants to get custody. Doesn't like Sebastian in the house because he's afraid Sebastian's going to be a pedophile because he was abused. He's afraid he's going to repeat the thing. And he doesn't want him around his young daughter. So he has been talking to Seth about letting Sebastian live with Seth full time. That says a lot right there. Okay, so he's trying to get rid of him, trying to get Sebastian out of the picture, calls Sebastian a pedophile, and on Katie's watch was abused at least once that we know of. Again, things happen. It's awful. Sorry, my light went out. Ooh, there we go. Timeline. Okay. First, she says on that Sunday, she says in that interview, like, oh, I went to pick up my niece because I got a call saying, can you watch her? Well, when you talk to the sister, the one that has the niece, the sister says, Chris's sister says, yeah, I went and, she made it sound like she went and got Sebastian, or somehow they met up. But it wasn't just Katie, Sebastian, and the niece. It was also Chris's sister and Chris's other sister-in-law. So 5 people. They go to BJ's in Rivergate, which is like a wholesale thing, I think. That's where he got the colossal popcorn. They went bowling. There's 2 bowling alleys in Hendersonville, so I'm not sure which one they went to. And then went to dinner at Texas Roadhouse. That was the last time he was seen in public, about 6:30. Because another online podcaster has interviewed the waitress at the Texas Roadhouse who waited on Sebastian and Katie that night. She said they were seated around 6-ish. She even remembers Sebastian ordered salmon. She can't remember what Katie ordered. They were the only 2 there, from what it sounds like the waitress is saying. So the sister-in-law and the others, niece and whatnot, are gone, so it's just those 2. They're having dinner at the Roadhouse. Ate around 6-ish, so probably around 6:37. They're leaving. That's the last time he was seen, eyewitness being the waitress. So they end up going back. So, I mean, the Roadhouse to her house is less than 10 minutes, I think. Not very far at all. So she ends up saying that he takes the trash out, pulls it out to the thing. There's video, but they can't tell if it's Sebastian or not. The dad can't tell. And you would think you would know what your kid looks like. So somebody's taking the trash out. Then she says around midnight, she goes to bed. But before that, she hears a noise and tells him, I don't care what you're in there, but go to bed. Then later in another interview, she says she heard a thud. You know, thud sounds pretty bad. That sounds like a body hitting the floor. That would be a thud. Did she use that by accident? Maybe. Who knows? But she didn't go check on him. She just, heard his voice, allegedly, saying, no, Mom, I'm all right. Why I don't believe that is, according to Chris, he was on the phone with her about, he says 9:43, 9:46, till about midnight, because she was starting to doze off, and he told her to put the dogs up and go to bed. And she's on the couch. How did he know she was on the couch? Did she say she was on the couch? Did she tell you she'd not put the dogs up yet? How do you know all this information? My theory, you're not on the phone with somebody for 3 hours unless you're a teenager or you're in a very new relationship. I wouldn't talk to anybody on the phone for 3 hours. 3 hours. Which, oh yeah, that's the amount of time it takes to get from Memphis to Tennessee. Or to Hendersonville, if you're booking it. And if what happens that I think happened, he'd be booking it. So, she goes to bed around midnight, wakes up around 6 to get Sebastian up and off for school. He's not there. Her bedroom, when she walks out, she sees right into the kitchen, the way the floor plan is. Her bedroom is on the opposite side of the house, sort of catty corner from where Sebastian's is. So she walked, but if you're walking by the kitchen, you would see that he's not in there. So she said she doesn't see him in the bedroom. So she walks to think, oh, maybe he got up early and made breakfast for himself. She would have seen him already. But let's say she did. She walks in there, can't find him. She's looking everywhere, she can't find him. Does she call 911? No. Allegedly, she calls Chris. Guess who made the 911 call? Chris. So she calls him. He's 3 hours away. Is she just such a wreck that she can call him, but she can't call 911? That he calls 911? And he's not even there? Is that a credible person to be talking to a 911 dispatcher? I'm just saying. And, okay, so evidently he left with no shoes. All her shoes were accounted for. He's got autism. The father has said that at one time they were out. He was barefooted. He stepped on like an anthill of red ants, fire ants. And they, so he's like, I don't want to walk barefooted again. He doesn't want his feet to get dirty. So no shoes. He's left his cell phone and left his backpack. He's taken nothing with him except this flashlight. A flashlight. We're going to double back to that in a second as well. So, Nina, he at some point calls, Chris calls Nina. And also the door was locked. But I've read that evidently they have a keypad lock. So you wouldn't need a key. You would just do to get in and get out. Okay, that's fine. So he calls Nina at some point to say, I got to tell you something. Chris does, to say, Sebastian's missing. And she's like, like, why are you telling me? And, what? I mean, don't you have lights? Don't you have, security? And of course, I think Nancy Grace asked that as well. And he's like, well, they're not motion activated lights. So, no Ring camera saw anyone leaving. Saw no one after 7 or whatever when the trash got taken out. No Ring cam caught anything. Around 3:10 in the morning, there were mysterious lights being seen. And the cops won't say what it is, what they suspect, because it might still be pertinent, it might not. What it looks like is someone's coming out with a flashlight in the backyard, kind of like in the area in between all the houses, and another one comes to meet. They go off screen, then the other one comes out and quickly goes away. That's important in just a moment. There's not really any street lights in that area per se, so it's very dark. Very dark. So Chris calls 911 at 6:33 a.m. And it's also noted that I've read that Katie and Chris's mother have almost identical cars. Putting that out there. Thing is, where Chris and Katie live, their street. There's a street behind them, and then there's a construction area. Keep that in mind. One question, did Sebastian even come home? I mean, there's no proof of it. And they left to go back to Memphis because he went back to work instead of looking for Sebastian, saying that they've been getting threats. Okay, fine. I've heard a lot of people saying that the searchers are being threatened. Again, I don't know. Is this turf war between, these searches and podcasters? I don't know. I would think everybody would want to help find. Just saying. I would think everybody would want to help. My theory, let's say I'm hoping that the cops have pinged all the cell phones. Hopefully they do know where was Chris. Where was he? What time did he start to come back? Did he start to come back after 6? Or did he start to come back at 9:30? 9:30 the night before. My theory, she's aggravated with Sebastian. She gave him a really good day. She even says he had a really good day, being autistic. So, I mean, she takes him to BJ's, they go bowling, they go have dinner, and maybe they do that every weekend. I don't know. Maybe that's their Sunday thing. I don't know. But that's, when I was going to put my dog down, I made sure he had a really good last day, too. Premeditated or not, let's say she's trying to get him to go to bed. He won't go to bed. They fuss and fight. She pops him, accidentally or otherwise. He falls, hits his head on a nightstand or the bed, knocks himself unconscious, the thud. He's unconscious. She's freaking out. She calls Chris to be like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Maybe at some point she's like, I think he's dead. I think he's dead. Chris is like, stay there, stay on the phone to make an alibi. I'm gonna get there as quick as I can, and we'll figure this out. But just stay on the phone. And did he leave his phone there in Memphis? Does he have the phone the whole way there? Is it plugged up to a charger so it's charging so it looks like they're still talking to each other at the distance? That's my theory. Okay, let's say he pulls up because he doesn't want to be seen by the neighbors. He pulls into either that street behind the houses or the construction site. Note that some of the tracking dogs went to the construction site, and that's where the scent ended. And some of the cops are saying, oh, it was a false whatever. I don't think it is. She knocks him out. She kills him, accidentally or otherwise. Chris runs to help fix it. He seems like a fixer and a control freak. So he parks either at that next street over or at the construction site. They run to meet. She's freaking out like, oh my God, oh my God. He gets the body because he's a strong man. He's a construction dude. Runs back out either to that street or the construction. Gets in the car, takes off. Now, keep in mind, he has family in the area. His mother and father-in-law live in Henderson. Chris and Katie live in Hendersonville. Terry and Kathy Bowersox, which is the mother and stepdad, they live in Gallatin, which is less than 15 miles away. The sister-in-law, Melissa, she lives in White House, also about the same distance in time. And the father, let me see if I can find where I put him. The father lives in what I would call Madison. It's East Campbell Road. It's off of Dickerson Road, kind of. He lives there. I don't think he has anything to do with it, because it seems like the mom is the controlling nutbag. Even Terry Bowersox Jr., which is Chris's stepbrother, who hasn't talked to the family in years, wants nothing to do with them, says that Kathy is a nut job and, wants nothing to do with him. And he says, I don't doubt that Chris is involved at all. Could this be a bitter, petty thing? Maybe, but I doubt it. So he even goes so far to say that Chris is a piece of trash. I kind of agree with what little I know. So Michael and Linda Proudfoot, Michael and Linda, which are the father and stepmother, they live on Campbell Road. That would be Proudfoot. Melissa Nicole Proudfoot Svendenson, that's Chris's sister. She's the one that lives in White House. Okay. Now, Melissa went on her social media being like, I am so tired of being blamed for things that a teenage kid did, da-da-da-da-da. Thou speaketh too much with thou forked tongue. She says, in one of her posts, she says, I was with him Sunday afternoon shopping. I took my sister and her daughter, plus my sister-in-law and Sebastian. Okay, I took my sister and her daughter, plus my sister-in-law and Sebastian, shopping that afternoon, so I can tell you he was in a good mood. They were headed home to put the groceries away when I saw him Sunday. Katie says she got the call to go get the niece for Sunday. Well, Melissa's own words, Melissa says she went shopping with her sister, Melissa's sister, and her daughter, which would be Katie's niece. And so which is it? Did you pick them up as you said that you got the call to? Or did y'all meet up? Which is what it sounds like with Melissa. So it sounds like they left at some point, because Katie talks about putting groceries away. So if it's groceries they got at BJ's, they would have to be non-perishable, because you went bowling and went to dinner after. If it was something that needed refrigeration, it would be bad. But anyway, so according to Katie, she got the call to pick up the niece, as we saw that Chris confirmed. And allegedly, Melissa saw her last. Okay, so a estranged son of Terry Bowersox Sr. thinks Proudfoot had something to do with the Sebastian Rogers missing. So this person spoke to Junior, who said that he moved away from Kathy and Terry 10 years ago and wants nothing to do with the family. He moved to Kentucky. He said that Chris Proudfoot's a weird dude. He said that Kathy is nutty. He told this podcaster that he just learned about Sebastian missing a few days ago, whenever this interview was. Man. So he says, Terry Jr. says, most likely the stepdad had something to do with it. He's a piece of trash, very capable of hurting young children. That's the brother-in-law talking about Chris, the one that wants nothing to do with the family. All right. Again, I don't think Chris's dad had anything to do with it. Do I think the mom and stepdad? Abso-fucking-lutely. Because if you look on Google Maps where Chris's stepfather and mom live, they're living almost at the end of a road. There's one other house, or it's a dead end. Woods all behind them, and on the other side of the woods is a pond that's accessible from another road. The sister White House, a little less woody in that area, but woods in between the two. Some people speculate, because where Chris's house is, Chris and Katie, across the street on Long Hollow, big bunch of woods. I'd have to go see it again. It may be really hilly because that area tends to be a little hilly. So I don't know if I'm going to dump a body. I don't want to be like trudging up a bunch of hills and craziness. And it's in the middle of the night. I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Which, if he stopped the conversation a little after midnight, that means he's gotten there. He's in there. He's helping clean up, maybe. I don't know. Just a thought. Regardless, I would hope they would use some luminol, especially in Sebastian's bedroom, to see if there's any presence of blood. Hopefully they do. I don't know. I'm shocked the TBI wasn't involved immediately. I'm surprised hell the FBI hasn't been involved, because it's a kid. I mean, isn't that what the FBI does? I mean, it's a child. I have very little faith in Sumner County Police and Hendersonville Police. I'm going to say it. TBI, sure. But Sumner County, I grew up there. I have no faith in anything going on in there. Nothing. And it doesn't sound like Sebastian has a lot of faith in it either. But just my opinion. I think it's very plausible, because he's going to know what his mom's house, the area, pretty well. I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking if you look in between Chris's house and Chris's mom's house, Kathy, that is the area they need to be looking at, and I think they really need to be looking. Now, some people have said that Chris's mom and stepdad have gone on a trip to Alaska, I don't think I'd want to be driving across country with a dead body in my car. I'm just saying. Could it possibly? Possibly. But I think if you look in those woods behind her house or that pond, that's where you're going to find him. Just my opinion. Again, why wouldn't you, if you're so innocent as you claim, why are you not wanting to take a polygraph? You know, I mean, I know they're not completely accurate, and I think they can't be used in trial anyway. But if it was me and someone's thinking I abducted a child or murdered a child, I'd be like, hell yeah, hook me up. And then he says he took one and passed. Then he says he didn't take one because the cops told him he didn't have to. Not buying that. I mean, how many cops say, oh no, you don't need to take one because you were in Memphis. You're good. That never fucking happened. I believe we can all agree that never happened. So, my heart goes out to Seth so much, and Nina for the crap she went through with Chris, which I totally believe happened. Now I could be wrong, and Chris may have been the one to overreact, and I would feel so betrayed if I found out that my current husband was talking to my ex-husband about giving up my child and having my child move somewhere else. That would tick me off. But anyway, whatever. If he is abusive, I can see wanting to please him so bad. Like maybe he's like, I'm going to leave if you don't get rid of this kid. That's a scenario that we don't know if it is true or not. But I also, not buying it. Not buying it. And I pray he is alive. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm so off base with this. But I think we can all agree I'm not. And I just hope we find him sooner than later, just so I really hope the dad gets the closure he deserves. And so that's my thoughts on that, and I hope for the best, and I send good juju out to the family, except for Chris and Katie. And again, I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. So thank you so much for listening to the Laugh or Die podcast. If you enjoyed this, please click on the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Click on follow if you're on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please come back and see me again. And if you think, wow, you've got a pretty good idea for a podcast and would like for this to go on, there's going to be links below where you can help me by donating just the cup of a cup of coffee. just a cup of coffee a month to keep this going would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. And again, I'm Christy with Laugh or Die.